provide a bit of context for this session. This is the first of 3 discussions aimed at exploring the importance of cultural heritage, in particular Black heritage, in the legal profession. The theme for today's discussion is empowering lawyers in diaspora to forge Africa's cross-continental alliances. As someone who began life as a competition lawyer at Lovells and then at Linklaters, and then transitioned into a variety of business development roles at Allen & Overy, Norton Rose Fulbright, and a number of other firms, and is now focused on African law firms and in-house legal teams, I wholeheartedly believe that my Africanness is a superpower that shouldn't be hidden, diluted, or moderated. Sadly, however, it's taken me about 25 years within the profession to be in a position to confidently voice that and hold that as a position. And that's the reason that I personally feel really strongly that we need to engage in not just storytelling, but audible and ongoing storytelling. Quite often the stories about people's successes and even their failures is told behind closed doors. And if you're privy to that information, it's fantastic, but we don't often have the opportunity to have these conversations openly. I really think that if we can do that more often, we can provide not just inspiration, but actually some really practical strategies and suggestions for those that are in law firms right now who are trying to navigate that path, simply by listening to both the successes and the failures of those that have achieved a level of success within the firms and also within in-house legal teams across Africa. I think we can hopefully start to learn lessons from each other, and really importantly, also avoid pitfalls of those that have gone ahead in the journey. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our 4 very illustrious panelists.
The question, one thing that is very important is that more than ever now, having African representation in international firms, very, very important. Is as important as the story of ESG or diversity indicator. For me, it demonstrates, the firm's commitment to advance diversity. In my company, currently, I'm the diversity champion. You can imagine, how important it is for me to select external legal partners and the diversity that they must bring to any transaction. So very important because it helps build trust and rapport. Diversity is very key, and it helps especially the firms really. Africa is our heritage. I keep hearing Shego talk of Africanness, which is very important. When this collaboration happens, it provides an insight into how to navigate, these challenges. Africa is unique. Most times, when we handle transactions, you need to look through a lot, socio-political dimension, cultural heritage, and it really differs. If you go to North Africa, for instance, you will see how the king impacts on most of the transaction. If you go to East Africa, some aspects, you will see how laws, even indigenization, can impact on a transaction. So it's very important to have that mix. So we currently operate a system where we have a panel of law firms, and it takes a lot of screening before any transaction. We look at the I would say membership of the law firm that we are going to choose. If a law firm who is going to work in a transaction in Africa does not have a partnership with an African firm, or even if they don't have Nigerians in the firm, if it's a Nigerian transaction, then it's going to be a big challenge for me, because what I'm looking at is speed of execution. What I'm looking at is an international law firm that understands the local dimension. So all of this is very important in selecting international law firms. And
it's very, very fascinating to listen to the conversation. And can I think this will partly answer your question, Sharon, but can we just address the talent question? Because I think we make this point, I think it was Shay who made this point around, obviously you need to have the talent, etc. I just want to say categorically, and I'm addressing those that are in an international law firm, if you're someone of African heritage and you've gotten through those revolving doors, your talent is not in question. And that's the first thing you've got to recognize for yourself, that, and I just, I speak from my own experience, right? And also recognizing the world we live in and how challenging it still is up to this very day, just to have a world that is free of biases or perceptions or presumptions. We still live in that world. So if you're there sitting at your desk in an ILF, you absolutely have the talent. And the question then becomes, how do you harness that talent and how do you leverage your Africanness? And so I would actually just start by saying, believe in yourself. I know that sounds really cliche, but I'm just going to say, believe in yourself that I am here because I absolutely deserve to be here and I have something to offer. And I'm excellent. I should add that. That's number one. Number two, understand your firm's strategy, because a lot of international law firms call themselves global law firms. We live in a world where no one can really claim to be truly global when they're ignoring Africa. I mean, I'm not the in-house lawyer on this call, but if a law firm turned up to me calling themselves a global law firm and did not have African representation or were able to articulate where Africa sits in their global viewpoint, I would really question that and challenge that in this day and age. And so if you're the African lawyer sitting in a global law firm, begin asking yourself, okay, I am of African heritage, I'm Kenyan, I have relationships in Kenya, I understand the landscape. How does that fit into the global strategy of the firm? And how can I contribute to that aspect of the strategy? So that's what I did. So I tend to use the analogy of a cake, right? The cake is your skills. It's Shegun's skills as a litigator. You have to be a top-class litigator. That is not negotiable. And I don't actually think that's in question, as I've said. And so if you're building this cake, building your skills, in my case, is tech M&A, learning about technology, doing M&A, building my expertise, it's then bringing that icing that says, hey, tech company X, global tech company X that's looking to enter into Africa, I can tell you about this market and that other market. And not only that, I have relationships that could be useful to you, like, Nigerian law firms, South African law firms. I can speak to the managing partner or senior partner of, law firm X in South Africa, and that they will be able to unlock more relationships and opportunities for you. So that's the icing that you bring onto the cake. When I was in my kind of journey, developing my career at CC, someone gave me this example of, we talk a lot about, white privilege and, our colleagues that have had the privilege of going to really good schools like Oxford and Cambridge. They absolutely leverage that every day of their life. The person that went to Oxbridge will tell me they went to Oxbridge before I tell them I'm Kenyan. So I need to leverage that which is uniquely mine. So own your heritage. Of course, you've baked the cake. Now add the icing on the cake. Understand where African fits in the new world order, right? We're now living in a world where, the whole sort of decoupling conversation took place. The, globalization is looking very much at risk. It's, increasingly fragmented. We've now got the AI revolution coming into the mix of all of that. Most of the critical resources that are fueling this new revolution are based on the African continent. Where is Africa sitting in this conversation? And then bring those insights to your clients. And then my final point that we'll make around relationships particularly with the African law firms, because they are the people on the ground. They are the people who are dealing with these issues for clients every single day of their life. And they can be a really useful source of insights. So developing those relationships with them, learning from them, and then bringing those insights to our clients. I mean, we've got Edith and Shaya here who absolutely know Africa. Their counterparts that are sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever it is, or Silicon Valley, may not know these markets as well as, Shaya and Edith do. And they would really, really value those insights. So be that person that is able to get those insights and bring them to your clients. I'll pause there.
The first thing, and Shegun's captured it succinctly, there needs to be a pragmatic approach to it. First is to understand that I'm a client, I'm the one with the problem. I don't have inexhaustible funds to deal with it. And so I have a budget, I have some wiggle room and everything. So that automatically informs the kind of firm I can go to, but it's also a function of the complexity of the matter. When you have some matters of certain complexity, price is the least of your considerations. You want to go for those who can deliver. So the price is important, and I always because I deal with a lot of guys and everything. We cut through the chase, so we come to real terms quickly. This is what is available, this is what I can do, what can you do within this? And then we can negotiate. And what I've found is a number of the international, like Shekhar said, they are quite reasonable people. They are flexible, they are business people, they are commercial people. And so they understand sometimes it's not from one single brief that I'm going to make all. And when I have a relationship, and I've always told people the key is recurring business. The key is recurring. And so that must always be a factor in the relationship. And I've found out over the years that you kind of are able to work out and you find a balance. Like he said, like Shegun said, they are not a charity. They have a lot to balance it that way. But I believe in value for money, and that's what it is. So I don't believe in just any name or anything. No. I need to see the value. And so that is what is crucial for me.
The points I also had, but perhaps just add one or two of my own personal insights. First of all, the landscape in international law firms has changed massively. And as Jennifer has said, if you call yourself an international law firm and you don't have something to say about the African continent, whether it's north of the Sahara, sub-Saharan Africa, or individual jurisdictions, then you're missing a trick. 20 years ago, when I was on a senior associate, called up to act for the Nigerian government, the law firm I was at, the partners I went to, and I said, look, we've got this great opportunity, essentially said, really, the Nigerian government, corruption this, and are we going to get paid that? And some of them just looked at me almost as if what I use smoking. But the proof was in the pudding, because the case turned out to be a significantly remunerative piece of work. It launched my career as a civil fraud litigator. I moved with it to another law firm. And that law firm that I moved to, which was DLA Piper, actually started off on its own African journey. And as many of you would know, is now one of those firms that is in Africa in a big way. The landscape has changed. So if you're in a law firm that doesn't have much of a focus on it, ask yourself, what are they doing? You can be the change yourself. You can point to other law firms. I think Jennifer's talked about Clifford Chance. They've been barnstorming in Africa, as you talked about 12 partners going to a reception in Nairobi. I'm not surprised. Every time I'm in Lagos, I'm always hearing about, these partners from Clifford Chance have just left or they're coming. Much to my chagrin, but it's all's fair in love and war. But I'm making the serious point that it's pointing out things like that to your partners to say, look, when you have firms of that size, with that cloud, pitching their tent and seeking serious business and doing serious business in Africa, you cannot, even if it's just a defensive strategy, you need to look at it closely. So that changing landscape and pointing to firms that have made a big play in Africa gives you a lot of ammunition to sell your connections. But as Jennifer has also said, talent and your skills are first and foremost. You need to be able to layer the base of the cake with strong skills, and the jurisdictional focus is an added not just an extra, but it's part of it. It's not just a nice to have. Without it, you're not complete. So you can sell yourself in that way. Take what the firm has, whether it's its sector focus or its strategic focus or practice area, and say, well, the firm is already good at this, but what about looking at the African market, whether it's advising clients going into investing in Africa or indigenous African clients like Edith and Cher have worked for, who are looking outside for capital, for to expand. Take what the firm and you have got and look at it through that jurisdiction-specific focus.